Mayor Danny, you are now live.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, gentlemen. Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this virtual extraordinary meeting of the full council. Could I now ask that a roll call be taken so that the public viewing this meeting know who is attending, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Tracy Abbott.
Present.
Councillor Tom Ashton.
Present.
Councillor Alison Austin.
Present.
Councillor Richard Austin.
Present.
Councillor Peter Bedford.
Present.
Councillor Alan Bell.
Present.
Councillor David Brown.
Present.
Councillor George Corner.
Present.
Councillor Danny, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, present.
Councillor Anne Dorian.
Present.
Councillor Vivienne Edge.
Say again.
Present.
Councillor Deborah Evans.
Present.
Councillor Paul Goodale. Councillor Goodale. I'll come back. Councillor Martin Griggs. Councillor Griggs. No. Councillor Neil Hasty.
Present.
Councillor Jonathan Noble.
Present.
Councillor Frank Pickett.
Councillor Pickett, you're muted.
I can see you, Councillor Pickett. I'll mark you as attending.
Yeah, present anyway.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Brian Rush.
Present.
Councillor Judith Skinner.
Present.
Councillor Paul Skinner.
Present.
Councillor Chelsea Sharman. Councillor Aaron Spencer. I'll move on. Councillor Yvonne Stevens.
Present.
Councillor Peter Watson.
Present.
Councillor Judith Wellborn.
Present.
Councillor Nigel Welton.
I'm present.
Thank you, Councillor Welton. Councillor Woodcock.
Present.
Councillor Stephen Woodliff.
Present.
Right, I'll go back to those councillors who I couldn't contact earlier. Councillor Paul Goodale.
Present.
Councillor Martin Griggs.
Present.
Councillor Chelsea Sharman.
Just joining at the moment, Lorraine.
Councillor Sharman is trying to log in as we speak.
Yeah, I can see she's entered the waiting room, so I'll mark her as present. Councillor
Thank you.
Spencer. No, Councillor Spencer. And then move to officers. Robert Barlow, Chief Executive.
Present.
Michelle Sachs, Deputy Chief Executive, Place and Monitoring Officer.
Present.
Tim Leader, Deputy Chief Executive, Strategy. Alison Penn, Deputy Chief Executive, People. Paul Julian, Chief Finance Officer.
Present.
Jeanette Collier, Senior Democratic Services Officer.
Present.
Karen Riss, Democratic Services Officer.
Present.
And myself, Lorraine Bush, Democratic Services Manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move now to part one. Are there any apologies?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have apologies from councillors Michael Cooper and Martin Howard.
Martin Howard and Michael Cooper. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any members wishing who wish to declare any interest in respect of any items on the agenda? I do believe there is none.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's correct. Yes. Okay. We move forward then. Then we go to part two, motion on notice. I will now move to the motion on notice for the meeting and call upon Councillor Bedford as a proposer. Councillor Peter Bedford, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, councillors. Firstly, may I say how sorry on behalf of the 5 people that signed this to call this EGM on behalf of the people of Boston. Because the way things have gone in this last fortnight or so, originally I was going to ask this to be deferred or removed, but was told I couldn't. But as things have moved on with all the ducking and diving and everything that's been going on with promises here and promises there, I have to slightly amend my motion to the fact of no confidence in the current leader and move that Councillor Stephen Woodliff becomes leader of this council until the elections in 2023, if of course we are still a standalone council by that time. And I reserve the right, please, to sum up at the end of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. Do I have a seconder?
I am the seconder, Mr. Mayor, and I reserve the right to speak on return. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rush. Now, does anyone wish to speak, please? If you wish to speak, you do the raise hand and Karen will call your name. I do believe there is Councillor Stevens, Councillor Woodliff.
Councillor Stevens is registered first, please, Mr. Mayor, followed by Councillor Woodliff at this point.
Certainly, Karen, thank you. So can we have Councillor Stevens, please, to the screen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion has changed and I'm unsure if I can do it at this particular time, but I would like to propose then Councillor Jonathan Noble to be the leader if the vote of no confidence is successful.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Can we have Councillor Woodliff, please?
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Of course, I can hear you, Stephen, and I can see you pretty well.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you much.
You're welcome, sir.
Thanks. Firstly, I want to offer my thanks to Councillor Peter Bedford for nominating me as leader of Boston Borough Council, and I want to thank Councillor Brown Rush for seconding Councillor Bedford's proposal. Well, the time has come when we must address the performance of the leadership of our council and question whether others could set a higher standard than the current holder. Most of us were in total ignorance of the plans for a strategic alliance that were being concocted behind closed doors. Plans that were announced to the public and the press, and most of us on the 6th of May. Plans that were set in motion 18 months ago. Plans that would strip Boston Borough Council of its independence, its authority over its officers, and any measure of trust with the residents of our borough. So, we know now that East Lindsey District Council has specified that it will only work with our council on its terms and conditions, and specify which of our councillors are acceptable and which are not. Quoting from this week's Boston Standard, from the Observer column, it says, or he says, the Observer says, there has been growing discontent about that East Lindsey merger. Local social media is suggesting the council had been discussing this for 18 months with not one word to residents until it was nearly all signed, sealed and delivered. Sometime soon, residents are going to wake up to the fact that councillors only seem to consult them at election time. The biggest surprise is that no one leaked it. That was in the Standard this week and written by the Observer. Well, of course, most of us were kept completely in the dark right up to the 6th of May, so we had nothing to leak. We didn't know about it. Whether the council was required to consult the people of the borough of Boston is not the issue. Accountability and transparency are the hallmarks of the Nolan Principles, the guidelines that should govern all that we do as honoured representatives of the people of our borough. And it's clear to me that the current administration has betrayed every aspect of it in keeping so much hidden. Referring to the local government ethical standards, Max Corler, pardon me, can't be that again. Max Corler, the Commissioner for Northamptonshire County Council, who was called in to sort out that mess, is quoted as saying, "Common law rights of councillors to know what is going on are well established in local government. It's not about regulations, although they are there. It's about making sure that the culture says these people are elected and have entitlement to know. In any administration I lead, elected members' entitlement to know will be respected in full. No backhanded deals, no cover-ups, and no sleight of hand will be allowed. So I'm content to accept the nomination as candidate for the leadership of our borough, and with the help of others, will be pleased to form a new administration to take charge of Boston Borough Council." Now, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I intend to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Woodliff. I do appreciate the transparency. We need transparency in this town. We need it big time. Thank you.
We do have further speakers, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor.
I think there is.
Austin.
Okay, and Brian Rush after that, Councillor Rush after that. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir. Thank you.
Can we have, is it Alison Austin? Councillor Austin, Alison, yeah? Can we have Councillor Austin, please, on the screen, guys?
Can you hear me?
Of course, I can hear you, can see you, Richard, properly. Go on.
Good. Now, we're not sure who's going to win the vote tonight, are we? But what I want to say is that it is likely that we're not going to have any more Boston Borough Council elections. I'm going to be supporting Councillor Woodliff in my vote tonight, but whoever wins, we mustn't have another leadership change. It's most important for the people of Boston that we have stopped this changing of leaders. I want to make it quite clear that whoever wins tonight, I will do my very best to support them for the good of the people of Boston. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Richard Austin. That's very noble of you to hear these words from you. Thank you. Can we have Councillor Rush, please?
Mr. Mayor, I apologise. I would reserve my right for later, if I may. I don't want to upset the proceedings, but can I reserve my right to speak later? Thank you.
I don't think so, Councillor Rush. There is any more speakers according to what I have in front of me. I think there is. I think Councillor. I have Councillor Alison Austin. She wishes to speak. Yes, Councillor Austin. Alison.
I'm unmuted now, am I?
Now you are okay, Councillor Alison Austin. You can speak. I can hear you and I can see you.
I'm sorry, I wasn't intending to be in a three-way sharing unexpected circumstances.
But that's fine.
This is, regardless of what goes ahead, various things that I wish to say. Firstly, this must stop. This council can't keep playing with ping pong with leaders anymore. This must be the last such meeting like this. Whoever is leader after tonight, we have to unite behind that person, or we risk becoming the laughingstock of the county. We're likely to be taken into special measures, and that would be the end of our control regarding the future of Boston. Much has gone on since the beginning of May, and if the current leader is in position at the end of this meeting, then he must acknowledge that some matters relating to the strategic alliance were not handled as well as they might have been in this council. From now onwards, all negotiations must be transparent and members informed at every stage. We are probably all agreed that this council must now approach South Holland District Council and work towards forming a three-way alliance to enable Boston to be in a good position for the next stage of unitary or Devo talks. The leader currently must admit that, but every leader must admit that he's not an expert in everything and utilize the best possible members to work with him, making use of the strength and experience of others. From now on, I'm suggesting that all briefings should be with all elected members, not just those in the ruling group. I've resented over the last few years learning important information from residents in my ward or others who tell me what from Boston Eye. We are the ones who must be the first to know. I'm sorry that I have to direct this comment to the Conservative group, but there is on occasion to be a very leaky ship, and this is not to the benefit of the council. Openness for everyone, please. Just a couple more points. Make sure that scrutiny comes at the right time and does not have to result in call-ins. Finally, I'm extremely concerned that the newest members of this council must think that the behaviour of some members, both in emails and in actual council meetings, is the norm across councils at this level of local government. I'm appalled at the vitriolic emails copied to all, the attacking of other members in meetings, and even worse, open criticism of officers. This has to stop. I was given some words of wisdom by a county councillor several years ago, and I know that if this behaviour went on there, those members would be taken on one side and politely reminded of how to behave when you are a councillor and under public scrutiny. The final thing is we must treat our officers with respect and value their expertise. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alison Austin. I couldn't agree with you anymore. I think we need a new blood, fresh blood in our council. I think we need transparency, put Boston first, and I think we need to work together. This is the only way to get Boston out of its troubles. We have to unite, we have to work together. I do believe that I have another speakers, I think Councillor Watson, and then Councillor Woodcock, and then Councillor Paul Skinner, and then I have Councillor Hasty as well. Is that correct, Karen?
It's Councillor Woodcock, Councillor Watson, Councillor Paul Skinner and Councillor Hasty at this moment, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Can we have Councillor Woodcock to the screen, please? Councillor Woodcock, do you hear me? Councillor Woodcock?
Oh, apologies, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Right, that's excellent. Right, as I say, what has been said, we are turning our local politics. It's almost as though it's a political game of chess, and it's unforgivable. In some ways, it's a bit like Caesar, A2 Brute. Who's going to get stabbed in the neck, in the back next? Whatever tonight, we could end up with our fourth leader in little over 18 months. That is farcical. And some of the things that are going about town, that the various cabinet seats have been put up as bribes to walk across the floor, that's one. The brunt of a lot of criticism would be Councillor Dorian. Apparently, Spalding, Lord Porter had said that, you know, he wouldn't sanction any work with us if she was there. Councillor Dorian rang him up. He'd never heard of it. It's a complete farce. It's a scandal. Other things that are going on, similarly, East Lindsey, same sort of thing. Huge criticism of one of our members. Again, the member contacted the council. Well, it's not us. We've never heard of this. Somebody is putting stuff around that, you know, should not be there. It is unacceptable to do things like that. Going on, our current leader, I'll only ask him one question in debate, and he declined to answer. Now, why would you decline to answer? Have you got something to hide? I don't really know, but people, as I say, are like pawns in this council, offering seats, and I gather the things have changed. But what I would say tonight is one thing. We have got to make a decision, each one of us, and you've got to be happy with that decision, and you've got to realise this is being recorded at the current time. How you vote will be available for people. They'll know how you voted, and I hope you can live with our vote, because the easiest thing is you tell the truth, and that's it. Then the rest of it becomes easy. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to tell the truth and make the right decision. You make a decision for the right reason, not what you've been cajoled into doing or anything else. You know, my view at the moment, we have a cabal of a small number of people. The dictionary definition as a secret political clique. And we have a cabal that seems to be running this council, and it's wholly unacceptable. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Woodcock. I do believe Councillor Watson is after you. Can we have Councillor Watson to the screen, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I have to echo what has already been said by several councillors, and I'm one of the newer members to this council, and I really am gravely disappointed the way in which this council has been led. I did indeed, I seem to remember at a meeting, wish Councillor Paul Skinner the best of luck, and at the same time I did extrapolate out what I felt that on average his prospects did not look good in terms of leadership. Whether he remains, I'm not sure I can support Councillor Skinner. I would wholeheartedly support Councillor Stephen Woodcliffe. I would like to see this council become more transparent, involve not just their own party, but all members in decisions, discussions. There's little more I can say. As I say, I hope things improve from here on. But right now, I feel very disappointed the way things have gone. And I would hope that all members, including myself, can be included in what is going to happen in Boston. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Thank you. I do believe Councillor Skinner, Paul Skinner, is the next speaker. Can we have Councillor Skinner, please, to the screen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm struggling to recall the question that Councillor Woodcock asked me that I've failed to answer, and if I have done, I would apologise to him, because I try and be as direct as I can. I can honestly say, having been elected to the job in February and into COVID in March, it's not been easy, and we've had to really make some decisions for the good and running of the town, rather than, you know. But during that period, I can honestly, hand on heart, say that all of staff and all of members have had the same information circulated, because I've made sure of that. So comms have done that. Yes, there have been some mistakes with the alliance, but I can hand on heart say I've followed officer guidance throughout. And there was a period when this was announced that up to July that myself and the deputy leader had no officer support whatsoever. No excuses, that's just the way it is. Think it was put on the forward plan on the 3rd of the 5th. We attempted to run a briefing for group leaders on the 5th of the 5th, to which all didn't attend, and they know who they were, the ones that didn't. We also offered a strategic, you know, basically one-to-one briefings with the groups. On the 15th of May, between 3 and 4:30, the independent group came. Well, two members did, the others weren't invited. So I actually sent more invites out. On the 15th of May between 4:30 and 6, the 2 members of Labour attended, and they thanked me for being as open, as transparent as I was. So some of this I'm having difficulty with. Monday, May the 18th between 3 and 4:30, all invites were sent out to the big group, and the only person to attend was actually Councillor Wellborn. So there have been many other things since then, and I've also done a number of staff briefings. I did 3 for the Boston people and a combined 2 further ones to ensure that the staff knew what was going on. So if you haven't known what's going on, the opportunity's been there. The phone's always been open, and I always answer honestly. And that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner, Paul Skinner. Just before I get to Councillor Hasty, I will need an advice, because there is here Councillor Austin's an edge. Who is wishing to speak? Because you can only speak once for 5 minutes. That's all. So I will go to Councillor Hasty. Can I have Councillor Hasty on the screen, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Point of information. Sorry. Councillor Wellborn is not part of the big group. That was an error.
She was a part of the independent group.
Yes, but I think Councillor Skinner accidentally probably said part of the big group, which she is not. Okay.
Point of information, Mr. Mayor. I'd set up a group meeting for big. I believe Councillors Wellborn, Woodliff and Bedford, who had been invited, didn't attend. So I sent out the invite again. None of the big members were actually in attendance, but Councillor Wellborn took the opportunity to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Councillor Alison Austin. Can I have Councillor Hasty, please, on the screen? My apologies, Councillor Hasty. Please go on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this brief. I haven't been a councillor for long, and I can't believe that we're having to go through this yet again. It's the 3rd time since last May. Leaders are coming and going more like kebabs out of a kebab shop. Now, whoever is, and Boston is starting to suffer. So all I ask is that all councillors, whoever comes leader tonight, that we all rally behind them and support them, and finally get around to putting Boston first and improving the town. Thank you.
I couldn't agree with you anymore with you, Councillor Hasty. If we vote a new one tonight, it will be the 4th, not the 3rd. It's the 4th within a year. And I think we're playing a basketball game here, in, out, or a rugby game. Thank you, Councillor Hasty. I do believe Councillor Evans wished to speak. Can we have Councillor Evans, please, to the screen? Councillor Evans.
Yes, right.
Thank you. Good.
Right. I'm quite sad, really, because I feel I need to speak because of the fact that Councillor Woodcock said, tell the truth. And I thought, right, well, I'm going to speak my truth. And I'd like to say thank you to Councillor Alison Austin for saying that this isn't the norm, because I have to say the emails that come through and the cruel words that are being said to people, I feel like I'm back at school and there's bullying going on. That's how I feel. And I think we could do a lot better with our time. And I'm absolutely disgusted with what's been happening. I'm desperate to move forward. And I just want to give you my experience of working with Councillor Paul Skinner. For me, he's been amazing. He's been available 7 days a week. He's been available on a weekend. Is every single issue, or I've just jotted this down quickly, when every single issue or problem I've needed assistance with is immediately, as soon as I've rung him, he's got onto it. It's usually sorted within the same day. I don't know how he does it. I'm just really impressed. He checks to make sure that the problem has got solved. So I feel like I get feedback. is keen for training and to help me move forward as a councillor. For me, I'm going to be devastated because I actually feel I don't think anybody else is going to work 7 days a week. I don't think anybody else will answer my phone calls immediately, help me out, help me with training, help me become the best councillor I can be. So I am upset, and I need to say this because I feel that people are maybe seeing the Paul that's speaking just on the screen, and they're not actually seeing the Councillor Skinner, who's never stopped working and who puts the council before his family to a certain degree. So I just felt I needed to tell my truth, and then I will feel better. So I'd like you to thank you for listening to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evers. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you. Can we have Councillor Goodale, please, in the screen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome, neighbour.
Sorry?
I say you're welcome, neighbour.
Oh, right. Yeah, thank you. I won't comment on my views on the Conservative leaders of Boston Borough Council. All I will say is I believe the main problem that we're having at the moment is simply because of the cabinet system. And my view is quite simple, that if we actually return to the committee system and the committee structure, members will feel more involved, the council will be more open, and I believe that this council could move forward in a far more democratic way. We may not have that much longer to go, but I do believe that the committee system would be the best way forward for this council. Whoever the leader is after this evening, really, well, it's irrelevant to me, but replacing one Conservative with another Conservative really would not really affect my view very much. But I do believe that whoever becomes leader of the council should actually dismiss the cabinet, and we should go back to the committee structure from the annual meeting that we're going to be holding later this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Goodale. Very good point. I do believe Councillor Judith Skinner wished to speak. Can we have Councillor Judith Skinner, please?
Thank you very much. Some people may say I'm biased, but Paul has the best interests of Boston at heart. Sometimes his directness can be mistaken for being brusque. This is not the case. He just likes to do things in the quickest time possible and the most open possible. He has sent out several of his branches saying that he would like to work with everyone and that he sincerely means that. I would like to say that I am very distressed at some of the hateful emails that he has received, and they are bordering on a hate crime, I would say, actually. And how he stood this, I have to admire him for, because I couldn't. So whatever happens tonight, Paul has done the best for Boston that he possibly can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Judith. Thank you. I do have Councillor Ashton, Tom Ashton, wishing to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I would add my voice to those that have already spoken in support of Councillor Skinner. I think I'm one of the people that have worked alongside Councillor Skinner in various capacities for the longest, perhaps not quite the longest. There are councillors here that were around and working with Paul before I was. But I can stand testimony to the fact that Paul cares very deeply about the town, about the borough, and the job that he does as leader. And I stand full square behind him. However, I do hear, and I'm sure all members of the council, particularly all Conservative members of the council, and I speak here simply as a backbench member. I have no office other than chairman of the planning committee on this council. You know, I'm not a member of the executive. I merely speak as a backbencher. But I do say that I understand and recognise that the way that the alliance proceeded through through to members of the council, given that we were working through COVID, the normal programme of evening briefings, which I'm sure would normally have taken place, simply couldn't happen. But I hear loud and clear that we should have done that a lot better. And it speaks volumes when there are elder statesmen and women of the council who were prepared to vote for whatever wrecking amendment they could find to try and frustrate that process, out of recognizing the feelings of anger and disappointment at the process and the way that it was being brought forward. Notwithstanding, I still maintain that it is the right thing for Boston, it's the right thing to do. But all of us that stand for election, we all try to do our best. And it is deeply saddening, the depth to which some of the conversation, some of the emails, some of the debate has plunged on this council. And I very, very much hope that after tonight, we can genuinely move on from it in a spirit of kindness and friendship, appreciating that we are all each trying to do our best, and to draw a line under the personal attacks and the personal criticisms, whether they be in this chamber, whether it's hawking a dossier on me around drainage boards, be it on Facebook. This stuff has to stop. We are all better than it. But at the end of the day, the Conservatives at the last borough council election won a clear mandate from the people of the borough to form and to lead the administration. And for that reason alone, there isn't a way that I could countenance supporting Councillor Woodliff in this vote. However, I do recognise that Councillor Skinner has been incredibly open-handed and has acknowledged his willingness to work across the council chamber and to bring the council together. And hopefully very soon we'll be able to move on from having meetings like this where we are all hiding behind our webcams, quite a lot of us probably for poor internet connection reasons or others, with those webcams turned off. And we can meet together in a room, probably a very large room, but so that we have that opportunity to remind ourselves that we are all human, we are all trying to do our best, and there are a few more so. There are a few who are doing more for Boston, and few who are prepared to do more for Boston than what Councillor Skinner has demonstrated that he's prepared to do. He is a damn good man at heart, and I firmly believe that he should be given the chance to work beyond this evening and bring the council together in the future.
Thank you, Councillor Ashton. You're done. Thank you. I do believe there is no more speakers. So, Councillor Rush, would you like to speak? Oh no, we have Councillor Walton. Just come on. Can I have Councillor Walton, please? Sorry, Councillor Rush. I think just one hand comes so quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm quite happy to defer to Councillor Rush at this stage.
Councillor Rush is wishing to speak last.
I'd like to speak last, Mr. Mayor.
No worries, Councillor Rush. Yes, Councillor Walton, can you go on, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors. My first meeting with Councillor Skinner was the first meeting in this council, and he came straight up to me and shook my hand, as did Councillor Mrs. Skinner, and welcomed me to that committee and basically said, if there's anything you need, anything we can help you with, just let us know. And that hand of friendship went a long way in the first day. We all know what it's like in the first day in council. We've all been there. some a long, long time ago and some very recently. How daunting it is walking in that front door in your first council meeting and sitting down with the press, the public, all the officers there, the huge pile of papers, and the nerves hit you. That's the man that Paul is. And I think Councillor Evans has said that as well. Now, he has taken a huge amount of grief over the way the alliance was put together. Huge amount of grief. And I think that's a little bit unfair. And I'll say why. Councillor Skinner became leader and the discussions on this were already in place. He delegated it to me to get it sorted, put it on the agenda and move through. I think things would have been done differently if we weren't on video conference, and in March, we didn't have all the systems set up. You know, this is our first meeting on Zoom. That's not an excuse, it's a reason, because I know every time we do have big project like this and have done in the past, they've been full officer briefings in the committee room and we've all been there. The reason I'm speaking tonight is because I think it's very unfair that one man, although the buck does stop with him as being leader, and you know that's what happens if you're the leader, you have to lead, and anything goes wrong, then it's your position. The time frames and the consultations and everything else was directed by myself and with advice from officers. So if anybody in this council wants to take it upon themselves to criticize the leader, I think you're criticizing the wrong person. It's me you should be criticizing, not Councillor Skinner. I take full responsibility for this, and I have spoken to Paul and I've spoken to a few other councillors that are not in our group and said that lessons will be learned, mistakes have been made, and I understand that, and so does Paul. My position as deputy leader is a very prestigious place for a councillor, and if I have overstepped the mark, if I have caused offence to any councillor in this council, if I have put this council into a position of distrust in the Conservative leadership, then that should fall squarely on my shoulders and squarely on my feet and not on Councillor Skinner. He's a very honourable man and he works very hard for this council. We speak every morning, every night, we speak at weekends. There is not a time that he is not available to support me in the things that I'm doing, or anybody else that wants to ask him questions or needs that support. So what I'm saying tonight is that we should all rally round Councillor Skinner. He came into this because of the problems that arose that put him in that position. He didn't seek it. He didn't go out and make the leader. He was nominated by our group as leader of our group, and he accepted that. And he has worked tirelessly night and day through an extremely difficult time, a time that we have never seen in this country, in fact, in this world, for many, many generations. And I have seen what he does on behalf of this council, not just in our council, but with other councils on county, regionally, nationally, to protect the people of this borough from some of the issues that are going on worldwide. He is so up to speed on what is happening and keeps me fully involved and fully informed. But what my point is that he does not deserve the kind of venom that has been thrown at him over the last couple of months. And just to give you another idea of the kind of things that are happening in the background.
Your 5 minutes has ended, Councillor Welton.
Okay, I had a
you,
phone call
Janice.
from somebody in another town saying that people in this council had been ringing them asking for dirt on me so they could throw it at Councillor Skinner.
Thank you, Councillor Walton.
I will be supporting him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Walton. Can we have, I do believe Councillor Dorian, she wishes to speak. Can we have Councillor Dorian?
Here comes Mr. Mayor. I can't get my video to start. I don't know why that is. Oh, here we go.
Opa.
Bear with.
No worries. Take your time. Sort this out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Dorian, your video is auto turning itself off. That indicates there's a hardware problem.
Okay. Is there anything I can do?
I'm afraid not without leaving the meeting.
Oh, should I leave and come back in?
If it's still a hardware problem, it might not resolve it. You can be heard though.
I can hear you, Councillor Dorian.
Yeah, I
Perfectly well.
can switch to a different device if other people want to speak. That's no problem. I'll switch to a different device. I'll log out and come back in if you don't mind.
Councillor Dorian, you're the only person waiting to speak.
Yes.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry about that, Councillor Dorian.
It's no problem, Mr. Mayor. It's no problem at all.
I would love to see you, but unfortunately.
Please don't worry. Okay, so what I'd like to, if you start my time now, just give councillors and the public a reminder of why we're actually here tonight and why Councillor Skinner was ever the leader in the first place. It was in fact because he stabbed Councillor Aaron Spencer in the back. Councillor Woodcock mentioned earlier Shakespearean play Julius Caesar et tu, Brute. When one of your best friends stabs you in the back, it's not very nice. And actually the people I believe have spoken in support of Councillor Skinner tonight are the very people who signed the document to remove Councillor Spencer from the leadership, and they didn't give him any pre-warning. They sacked him on the night of a full council meeting, and the young man was hugely devastated, hugely embarrassed, and it was shocking to all of us. And actually, when you look back at what was going on at that time, in actual fact, we were all working together really well. Councillor Spencer had reached out across the chamber, and we had all worked together really well. And all that, the Councillor Skinner took a wrecking ball to that. All for his own political gain, supported by Nigel Welton. Now, then we had the fiasco of the Strategic Alliance, and after that first meeting where it was rejected, I then wrote to all elected members, and this was over 8 weeks ago now, and I suggested that we all put down our metaphorical weapons. I said we all need to work together and do the best for the people of Boston. Now, neither the leader or the deputy leader responded to that email, not even to say, no, thank you, Councillor Dorian. However, I was delighted that 2 women from the cabinet did respond. And I felt that that was the beginning of some bridge building between the 2 sides of the chamber. Interestingly, another Conservative councillor also reached out and said that they had no idea of any turmoil that existed. So I'm going to spare that person's blushes, but it was an incredible response. Now, COVID has been used as an excuse a lot tonight, but actually, in reality, there's no excuse for the way that Councillor Skinner and Welton have behaved. No excuse at all. They've actually marginalised the staff. They haven't included the staff. I've had staff members ring me saying they're feeling very isolated. They're at home. They are working from home. They're working very differently. They don't have the normal day-to-day support of their colleagues in the office where they could lean on each other and support each other, because they are very worried about their jobs, Mr. Mayor. They're very worried about the redundancies that are happening now and will happen in the future. We then had the second meeting for the Strategic Alliance. Before that happened, though, the first Martin Hill letter was leaked, so everybody was aware that devolution was around the corner. Our 2 leaders, Welton and Skinner, didn't stop, didn't take stock, didn't think, hang on a minute, are we really going to chuck 750,000 away in exit costs for staff? Are we going to just put the brakes on and wait and see what's around the corner? And now, of course, now that Martin Hill's come clean and made it public what his intentions are, now we know that the Strategic Alliance is rendered useless. It's redundant. It's impotent. Mr. Mayor, impotent. There is no need for the Strategic Alliance because devolution or local government review is around the corner. We will cease to exist within 18 months to 2 years. And we have thrown good money after bad because these two men at the top of the tree can't stop and take advice from other people. And we have had two conflicting reports. Councillor Skinner says he had no officer advice. Councillor Welton said they leaned on officer advice. Who do we believe? I just don't know anymore. I really don't. But I tell you what we all found shocking is when they both had the audacity to complain then that Martin Hill was rushing devolution. He was doing it all in secret, Mr. Mayor. The exact two adjectives that the opposition used in order to ask Cabinet to slow down and take stock. It was too rushed. It was done in secret. And then they didn't like it when Councillor Martin Hill did the same to them. A question that's never been answered is, why didn't Martin Hill trust his district council leaders, Mr. Mayor? Why do you think that was, that Councillor Martin Hill couldn't take the district council into his confidence? So I will close there by saying I will be supporting Councillor Stephen Woodliff tonight. I think he will make an excellent leader. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dorian. Very interesting, very interesting. Thank you. If there is no more speakers, then I will invite Councillor Rush to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not surprised at all by the views and opinions that's been expressed tonight. However, it seems to me that the Conservative group are polarising themselves. They seem to be in denial about what has happened. The division that's been caused amongst the councillors who are supposed to support the people of this town is disgraceful. We as independents have been marginalised, cast to the side, except when we are needed to promote the furtherance of the Conservative group's ideas. Let's be honest, the Alliance, for example, it has never been answered yet that the independent group constantly wanted to know the ins and outs of that particular proposal and has yet, as far as I am aware, have not been forthcoming. So I'm going to be supporting Councillor Woodliff on the basis of one thing: honesty, sincerity, and a man who plays a straight bat. He transcends the kind of political jousting that's been going on for a long time. I hear what Councillor Ashton was saying and trying to impress the people with his support for the two leaders. Well, frankly, I do not support neither Councillor Welton nor Councillor Skinner, and frankly, the order of merit there is intentional, because Councillor Welton has actually almost orchestrated everything that's gone on at the council. Now, I think he's quite an able man. I think Councillor Skinner, in the right mode, is an able man. However, leadership does not become them. I will be voting Councillor Welton, and I want to know that we will combine behind Stephen, and let's show the people of Boston that we can actually make some progress. We should have been actually driving this initiative. Instead of that, we're being brought up in the flotsam of it's an exhaust fume. Boston has been degraded by the very people that have run it for the past 10 years or so. We need to boost ourselves again. We need to start respecting ourselves. We need to start having pride in Boston. Mr. Mayor, I thank you for listening to me. I really urge all of my councillor friends to support at least a way forward that supports the people of this town. And I do think that there is merit in Councillor Paul Goodale's suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. I just want to clarify one thing with you. When you were speaking, you said, I support Councillor Welton. You meant Councillor Woodliff.
It's a slip of the tongue, really.
No, it's just to clarify it because, you know,
Oh,
it's,
no,
everything
no.
is recorded just to put you
No,
on
no,
the safe side.
Councillor
Yeah.
Stephen Woodliff, to give him his proper title.
Yes.
The future mayor of Boston.
Councillor Rush, I couldn't disagree with you anymore because when I was elected the first time, I felt I was on the dark side as well when I was in the council. And I tell you, I was elected. I thought everything will be transparent. Everything will be open to everyone. We should know what's going on. But most of the time we were left in the dark. And I think it's very tough. And you do recall, we used to talk a lot about what's going on. We didn't know what's going on despite we were a group of 13 and we were marginalized. We didn't have a lot of power. But anyway, that's how politics goes. Now we have Councillor Bedford who wished to speak. Councillor Bedford, please, can you come to the screen? Hello, Councillor Bedford. Yes, Councillor Bedford. I can't hear you. I can see you, but I think you are muted.
Not according to my screen.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
that's fine.
But,
That's fine.
And the camera is working okay. Good.
I can see you.
Well, thank you. Obviously, it comes to me to try to sum this up tonight as to why this was brought forward and comments that's been made during the debate tonight. I've heard of olive branches, wrecking processes, and the fact that in theory, we are losing very good officers, no ifs or buts about that. And it all falls down around this ELDC partnership. I'm happy that there should be partnerships, both with the ELDC and South Holland. We have to join up if we are going to fight the Martin Hill devolution deal, but just not the way that it's been done. None of us know anything about it until it actually landed on the table. So that really was down to a fail in leadership. I'm sure in the Conservative group, there are some very good young councillors. But even today, one has resigned her position because quite simply, that was one that was being hawked around without talking to the lady. Now that is disgraceful. It really is. You want to listen, Mr. Mayor and councillors, to the people of Boston. Look on Facebook and see what the opinions at this moment in time are of the leadership. Even today at 12:30, I got a telephone call offering me the deputy leadership if I would vote another way tonight. I'm not interested in deputy leaderships. I've been there and done all that. As far as the leadership and the 7-day a week is concerned, that goes with the territory. You are expected to work probably 50, 60 hours a week as a leader of a council. And I won't say that the monetary offering these days isn't too bad. It was less than half of that when I was leader, but I still did not complain about that. We all should be here for the good of Boston and certainly to work for the people who put us here. And the day that is lost is the day that a councillor is failing. Stephen Woodliff will make a very, very honest leader. He would bring all this council together, no ifs, no buts, and everything would be straight and above board. And I rest my case there, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bedford. Just to stress, I think Councillor Paul Skinner is wishing to speak. We only speak once, Councillor Skinner, and only for 5 minutes, if I can remind you of that. Except if there is a point of clarification.
It was just a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Really. I did not hawk somebody's folder. If people bothered to look at the circle on the reorganisation, you'll actually find there's actually 8 positions now instead of 6. So I think it pays to read the stuff that's emailed out to you. And
thank you.
Another point of order regarding Councillor Hill, even his own executive didn't know what he was doing. So I hope that clarifies it for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner. If there is no more speakers, and I think Councillor Bedford has summed up, now we're gonna move basically to the vote. This will be taken by roll call. Lorraine will call out your name and you should respond for, against, or abstain. Thank you. All to you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the amended motion is that this council calls for a vote of no confidence in the current leader and elects Councillor Stephen Woodliff as leader of the council.
Yes.
Can
Thank
I
you.
make
Yes.
clarification?
Yes, Councillor Hasty.
Yeah, Councillor Skinner has actually rung me and offered me the town centre portfolio if I aligned with the Conservatives like Tracy Abbott did straight after the election. I would just like to make that clear.
That's politics. Welcome to the world of the politics. Thank you.
It wasn't
right, Mr. Mayor.
It was actually regulatory. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to move to the vote. Yes, Lauren.
Okay, so members are clear of what we are voting on.
Yes.
Councillor Alison Austin.
Why am I first?
It should be
sorry.
Tracy Abbott.
Sorry, I've turned the paper too soon.
So just, sorry, Lauren, just to clarify, we are voting for the amendment that Stephen Woodliff goes as a leader. Is that correct?
Yes, this council calls for a vote of no confidence in the current leader and elects Councillor Stephen Woodliff as the new leader of the council.
So if they go for 4,
if they are for Councillor Woodliff being appointed as the leader, they say 4. If they are against that, then it's against, or if they wish to abstain, abstain.
Okay, so it's against or for. So if they go for, that's for the Councillor Woodliff to be a leader. If they go against, that's for the leader to keep as a leader, basically, whatever. Yeah, is that clear? Thank you. Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
Councillor
you. Thank you.
Abbott.
Against.
Councillor Tom Ashton.
Against.
Councillor Alison Austin.
Richard on.
For.
Councillor Richard Austin.
For.
Councillor Peter Bedford.
For.
Councillor Alan Bell.
For.
Councillor David Brown.
Against.
Councillor George Corner.
Against.
Mr. Mayor.
Against.
Councillor Anne Dorian.
For.
Councillor Vivian Edge.
Again.
Councillor Edge.
For.
Councillor Deborah Evans.
Against.
Councillor Paul Goodale.
For.
Councillor Martin Griggs.
Against.
Councillor Neil Hasty.
For.
Councillor Jonathan Noble.
Against.
Councillor Frank Pickett.
Against.
Councillor Brian Rush.
For.
Councillor Judith Skinner.
Against.
Councillor Paul Skinner.
Against.
Councillor Chelsea Sharman.
Against.
Councillor Aaron Spencer. I don't think Councillor Spencer's with us. Sorry, Councillor Spencer.
I do believe he's absent.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Yvonne Stevens.
Against.
Councillor Peter Watson.
For.
Councillor Judith Wellborn.
For.
Councillor Nigel Welton.
Against.
Councillor Colin Woodcock.
For.
Councillor Stephen Woodliff.
For.
are 13 for the motion and 14 against, so the motion falls.
Thank you. So thank you for that, Lorraine. That concludes the formal business of this extraordinary meeting, and I thank you for your attendance. There will be a 10-minute break before moving to the ordinary meeting of the council. Please do not log off, as the next meeting will continue on this platform. It would be appreciated if members could turn off their camera and microphones during the break. Thank you. 10-minute break. Thank you. Thank you, Lorraine.
Oh, we mute. Right. Make sure it says mute.
No, Councillor Austin, you're not on. You are on mute now.
Well, it's.
You are on, Councillors Austin and Ed. You are on mute now. You've just taken yourself off mute.
Oh God, it's complicated.
It is, isn't it?
So switch it back up. Switch it back because you're still on. You're not on mute at the moment.
It was that one.
Right.
Michelle?
Yes.
No, wait, sorry. Wasn't Councillor Noble put forward as a replacement leader if the motion failed?
No, because you can't have. It was suggested that would be a consideration, but you can't have an amendment while an amendment is under discussion. And there wasn't any. Councillor Stevens did not come back after that vote to propose Councillor Noble, and it wasn't seconded. Had it been seconded at the time, I would have explained that you can't have an amendment to an amendment.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'm back, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everyone appears to be back online and we're still streaming live.
All right then.
Can you see me now, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, I can see you. Hello, stranger.
Thank you. Just checking it works. Thank you.
Yes, I can see you, Councillor Dorian.
We are ready to commence when you are, Mr. Mayor.
I am ready, Jamie. Jason, yes, I'm ready.
Please proceed when ready, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. If everybody's back, thank you, Jamie. Thank you. Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this virtual meeting of the full council. Could I now ask that a roll call be taken so that the public viewing this meeting know who is attending? Thank you. Lorraine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Abbott.
Present.
Councillor Ashton. Councillor Ashton. I'll come back. Councillor Alison Austin.
Present.
Councillor Richard Austin.
Present.
Councillor Bedford.
Present.
Councillor Bell.
Present.
Councillor Brown.
Present.
Councillor Corner.
Present.
Mr. Mayor.
Present.
Councillor Dorian.
Present. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Edge.
Present.
Councillor Evans.
Present.
Councillor Goodale.
Present.
Councillor Griggs.
Present.
Councillor Hasty.
Present.
Councillor Noble.
Present.
Councillor Pickett.
Present.
Councillor Rush.
Present.
Councillor Judith Skinner.
Present.
Councillor Paul Skinner.
Present.
Councillor Sharman.
Present.
Councillor Spencer. Oh, no, I don't think we've got Councillor Spencer. Councillor Stevens.
Present.
Councillor Watson.
Present.
Councillor Wellborn.
Present.
Councillor Welton.
Present.
Councillor Woodcock.
Present.
Councillor Woodliff.
Present.
Go back to Councillor Ashton. Councillor Ashton.
Hello. Sorry, apologies. I'm present.
Thank you. I'll just run through the officers. Robert Barlow, Chief Executive.
Present.
Michelle Sachs, Deputy Chief Executive and Monitoring Officer.
Present.
Tim Leader, Deputy Chief Executive. Nope. Alison Penn, Deputy Chief Executive. No. Paul Julian, Chief Finance Officer.
Present.
Andy Fisher, Head of Regulatory Services.
Present.
Sorry, Andy, that's your old title. Judy Benson, People Services Manager.
Present.
Jeanette Collier, Senior Democratic Services Officer.
Present.
Karen Riss, Democratic Services Officer.
Present.
And myself, Lorraine Bush, Democratic Services Manager.
Thank you, Lorraine. Now we go to part 2. Have I the council's permission to sign the minutes of the meetings of the council held 10th of June, 25th of June, and the 21st of July 2020? If there are no comments, I will assume you are in agreement for me to sign the minutes. Thank you. Don't fall asleep. Are there any apologies?
Mr. Mayor, there are apologies from councillors Michael Cooper and Martin Howard.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Are there any communications?
There are none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the council?
Yes, there are 2 questions, Mr. Mayor, from Councillor Brian Rush.
Thank you. Can Councillor Rush, ask your first question, please? Councillor Rush?
Mr. Mayor, I'm struggling to find my papers. Give me a moment.
No worries, Councillor Rush. Take your time.
I'll just go and give him a copy, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, he's next door. That's good.
Where I put those. Is my answer on here as well? Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Mayor.
No worries, Councillor Rush. Take your time.
Councillor Rush, you are currently not on video or on speaking.
I'll try and rectify that. I'm not worried about the visual. Can you hear me?
We can.
I do. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Last Friday, one of the council's amenities became the subject of an illegal encampment when about 25 vans and caravans were allowed to arrive on Woodville Road playing field, presumably parking illegally. As the portfolio holder for parks and open spaces, would you explain to me why only one enforcement officer was on call? And B, what actions were taken to reassure residents in the area that Boston Borough Council was actively involved in resolving the ongoing issues with the travelling community? This is directed to Councillor Paul Skinner, I believe.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Can we have Councillor Skinner, please? Can you?
Well,
can you please respond? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Rush. The answer is quite long-winded, and I'll actually, you'd have to forgive me for that. For a start, we've got 25 vans. I believe it was actually 30. So there were more there than I'm much like you would prefer if there was none. So the antisocial behaviour team has one officer who covers Boston Borough Council area and one officer that covers East Lindsey District area within 22.5 hour a week part-time arrangement. An officer supports Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday each week. With regard to the working week ending 31st of July, when the travellers arrived, the East Lindsey District Council officer was actually on annual leave, which meant one officer was covering both district areas. This is our standard officer coverage rota, and has actually been in place since 2015. And I didn't have the regulatory folder at that time, but it's certainly been a long time. What we need to do is look a bit at the timeline on this, and an officer of the council served the first legal notice on each occupant within 2 hours of their arrival on site on the Friday 31st. Customer services made the duty ASB officer aware at 13:05 hours on the 31st of July. The officer was emailed about it by the police at 13:20 on the 31st of July. At 13:50, the officer arranged a police escort to serve a Section 77 notice on each of the travellers, which you're required to do by law. And this was completed by 1500 hours on the 31st of July. So these people had arrived just before 1, and by 3 o'clock they had notice, as is required by the law, on every one of them. On the following Monday, we received notification from the High Court of a date. Within 30 minutes of this notification from the court, the duty ASB officer from the council, supported by Links Police, served the summons at 17:15 hours on the 3rd of August, detailing when the court case for removal and eviction was occurring. The traveller encampment left on the evening before the scheduled court hearing, which I believe is something that they normally do. And the last vehicle left the site at 21:30 hours. The cordoned off play equipment then had a deep clean, and this was completed before 8:08 hours on the following day. Officers of the customer service and the ASB teams updated all callers who contacted the council with the steps that had been taken and would be taken once we had the court to obtain the eviction and removal order. Updates were also posted on all the council's social media platforms. I hope that answers your question, Councillor Rush.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner. Councillor Rush, do you have a second question, please?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And I would like to refer it to the situation as it arose. Councillor Skinner has very, very aptly sort of put together a lot of times and dates and whatever. However, it makes no allowance whatsoever for the distress that was caused by those people during that incursion. And I choose that word rather carefully. We have a lot of equipment down there, and I do believe that there is one unit called the sort of the galleon. And if I'm not mistaken, it cost an awful lot of money. And this was used as a complete toilet area. Now, I tried very hard right through the week, and I didn't see anyone else there. So if someone else was there when I wasn't there, then, okay, I apologize. But let me tell you, that galleon, as it's called, was absolutely full of humanus gratia. I had to talk very, very quickly to some of our officers to try and inform them that we had a duty to actually make it safe for the public. Anyone that goes down there this evening will see that, in fact, although they did the job quickly and as fast as they could, they actually fenced the pieces of equipment off, but have left, a 3-foot fence. I'm sorry, it's not good enough, and it should have been better. And I wish that I would like to see some results in future.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Councillor Skinner, would you like to respond to Councillor Rush's second question, please? Supplementary question.
Mr. Mayor, and I very much share Councillor Rush's distress on this. And obviously, I will be pushing for the legislation to be changed. It is absolutely abhorrent that people can put themselves on our land and cause so much damage without fear of recourse, because there's just too many of them. And that's something that I would be. There's a hand up, Mr. Mayor.
I can't see any hand, just go on.
Okay. So I'm just as shocked as you. What I am of the opinion, this was expressed on my Facebook, because I have some friends, very good friends of mine, that actually have properties opposite the park, and you know what they went through. I agree with you, Councillor Rush, is highly unacceptable. But what I think we ought to do, because we've also got environmental considerations, I don't see fences as a solution. I would actually really like to see something like 3 or 4 foot old money banks, so you can't actually get in there. So the kids have also got an additional area to play in. But I mean, that's down to the officers to have a look at, and I'm sure that when they bring it to BTAC, it'll be a fully worked up scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paul Skinner. If you stay there, I just want to ask you a question. Have the council assessed the damages, and do we know how much will it cost to repair the damages?
I don't know that they've totaled it up yet. I just find it all appalling that the hard-earned money of the people of this borough have had to be put into something to repair. I mean, if people came and they didn't do the damage, well, you could accept it. But I totally share Councillor Rush's. It's absolutely abhorrent. Thank you.
Thank you. We have to just pass our credits to our cleaners, the team of Boston Borough Council, because at that morning I woke up, I was out at 6 o'clock in the morning. They were already there cleaning, and it was a lot of rubbish around. But a credit to our team of cleaners, credit to them. I mean, I thank them a lot. Okay, we have a second question by Councillor Rush. Can we have your question, please, Councillor Rush?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question again goes to Councillor Paul Skinner. Councillor Skinner, you have been a supporting advocate of this alliance, and so one would expect you to have been the main cheerleader for Boston, its people, and the staff of the council. So are you yet in a position to tell us who amongst Boston's loyal staff are destined to lose their jobs?
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Would you like to respond, please, Councillor Skinner?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And once again, I thank Councillor Rush for notice for his question. But full council is not an appropriate forum to discuss staffing arrangements, as this falls under the responsibility of the Chief Executive as head of paid service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner. Councillor Rush, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I find that quite strange, really. Now I'm as sensitive as the next man, and I'm sure every one of my fellow councillors would appreciate that. In fact, they'd probably applaud that. My reputation goes way beyond me. However, the point is that these people are in limbo. They do not know what is happening. This council has gone through quite a transient period of as was said in the last meeting, conjecture, gossip, whispering. It's time that we give our employees some confidence in where they're going and what they're doing. Communication is the key here, and for Councillor Skinner to take that escape route, I simply cannot agree with him. You need to now be careful that our workers don't start looking for other jobs, because there are some fantastic people that work for this borough. Please take care that we don't lose the best and keep the worst. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Councillor Paul Skinner, would you like to respond, please?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would actually concur with Councillor Rush. We've got some fantastic staff, and that's why I took part in 5 questions and answers session with the staff. We've got an excellent chief executive, but the staffing arrangements are with the chief executive. Respectfully, I'm not avoiding the question whatsoever. It is the head of paid service to do that. But if we have feelings that we are not conveying the message across well enough, well, in that case, I'll take heed of what he's saying. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Councillor Rush.
Thank you very much, Councillor Skinner. And probably tonight is our beginning of working together in transparency and putting Boston first. And I hope we can all work together towards that goal. Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the public?
There are none, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there any members wishing to declare any interest in respect of any items on the agenda? I hear somebody talking. We have the Austins and Councillor Edge, the Councillors Austins. Who is wishing to speak?
I need to declare that I'm a member of Lincolnshire County Council and took part in the debate regarding the pavement item. I think is at number 1 on this evening's agenda. But I would like advice if it impacts upon me speaking tonight. Thank you.
Okay, we can ask our monitoring officer if we can have an advice for Councillor Alison Austin, please, Michelle.
Hello, Councillor Austin. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Councillor
Good
Austin.
evening.
Sorry, did you say you were a member of the I missed which committee you said you was a member of at County Council?
It was full council. Sorry. It was full council at Lincoln when this came, I think, was it Tuesday? No, it was a week ago. We had this item on full council at Lincoln.
My view, Councillor Austin, is in accordance with section 21 of the Localism Act. The fact that you may have voted on a matter previously wearing a different hat is no automatic preclusion to you now voting on the matter tonight, providing you retain an open mind and you view the matter before you in your role as a district council. But that would be my view, but that would be a matter for you to consider whether or not you wish to declare an interest. Thank you. And if you are to declare an interest, remember it's whether or not it precludes you from taking part in the vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you. Okay, we now move to the agenda items, which is part 2. And I call upon Councillor Yvonne Stevens to introduce the report. Hello.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I also want to declare the same interest as Councillor Austin. I was 2 at that meeting. However, I don't feel that it will affect my ability to vote on it this evening, as I will approach it with an open mind.
All right. Thank you very much, Councillor Griggs. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak or declare any interest, please? No? Okay. Oh, yes. Councillor Tom Ashton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just following on from the theme of other members to declare that I am an elected member of the County Council. However, I haven't expressed any views on this and I can approach it with a completely clear and open mind.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ashton. I seen Councillor Paul Skinner, you raised your hand. Do you wish to speak or?
I have, Mr. Mayor. I'm just declaring that I'm also a member of Lincolnshire County Council, and that what's gone on hasn't prejudiced my views in any way. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, councillors. Okay, I will repeat if there is no more speakers. We now move to the agenda items, and I call upon Councillor Yvonne Stevens to introduce the report on pavement licensing. Can we have Councillor Yvonne Stevens, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome, Yvonne.
This paper this evening to consider delegating to Lincolnshire County Council the discharge of Boston Borough Council's duty under section 1 to 9 of the Business and Planning Act 2020, which received royal assent on the 22nd of July 2020. The purpose of the Act is to support business recovery during and following the COVID-19 pandemic. The Act includes making it cheaper, easier and quicker for businesses to obtain pavement licenses for the use of outdoor space during the summer and at other times. The Act gives the power to Boston Borough Council to issue these licenses and until 22nd of July 2020, the issue of pavement licenses was only a function of the County Council. Pavement licenses under the Act permit a licence holder to put removable furniture as part of a relevant highway adjacent to the premises to allow the license holder to use the furniture to sell or serve food or drink, and for customers to use the furniture when consuming food and drink supplied by the license holder. Lincolnshire County Council has offered to discharge this function under the Act on behalf of the district councils in Lincolnshire. As licensing is a non-executive function, discharging the council's function requires formal delegation by council and formal acceptance by council at county. On the 3rd of August, Lincolnshire County Council unanimously resolved to accept a delegation from district councils to process the issues of pavement licenses on their behalf. And I move that the recommendations to this report be agreed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Do I have a seconder? Is your hand, Councillor Noble, raised because you want a second or you want to speak? Which one of those?
It is to do both.
So you're gonna say which one you're gonna go first? You second.
Obviously, first, I've got to second it first, Mr. Mayor, haven't I?
Yes, yes, you do.
But someone had their hand up before me.
Yes, I totally agree. It's Councillor Woodliff.
Thank you.
So that's why I'm asking you. Councillor Woodliff, please. Can I have Councillor Woodliff to the screen? And you can raise your hand again, please, Councillor Noble. Thank you. You can put it so we don't forget about you. Thank you, Councillor Noble. Hello, Councillor Woodliff.
It wasn't to second it, I can assure you of that.
Now the second has been seconded by Councillor Noble.
It's very good of him, isn't it?
Well, yeah, he's quicker than you.
Yes. Well,
yes.
I have two concerns about this. As we know, members of the visually impaired community, people who have difficulties with eyesight, have complained for years about the A boards that exist outside shops and the hazard that it represents to them. And of course, this is going to go a great deal further, isn't it? Because there's going to be furniture on the pavements. And I'm concerned about the risk to people who do not have good eyesight. So what measures are shops going to do to ensure that visually impaired members of the community don't suffer injury? And also to ask the question, who pays the insurance to ensure that if injury does occur, is the county council liable for this? I'd like to think so, but I suspect probably not. Two questions then, isn't it? Well, one statement. First of all, I'm very concerned about the risks to visually impaired people by having furniture on the street, which we know about, it's been repeated numerous times to the council. And the other question is, of course, or aspect, who pays the insurance to ensure that if people are injured, who meets the cost? Over to you.
Thank you, Councillor Woodliff. Thank you. Thank you. Now we go to Councillor Jonathan Noble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, sections 1 to 9 of this Act, the Business and Planning Act 2020, are only going to remain in force until the 30th of September, only for 1 year. Now, Lincolnshire County Council has historically always had this function to issue pavement licenses. And the reasons why Boston Borough Council are not minded to do it is, first of all, it doesn't have an existing process or allocated resources to administer it. It simply wouldn't be cost effective for us to do it for 1 year in terms of officer resource and so on. And the fact is LCC have expertise in this matter, and they have been doing it for years under Part 7A of the Highways Act 1980. So I think it's perfectly correct that we leave LCC to do the job. And apparently they were supposed to have an extraordinary meeting on the 3rd of August, enabling it to accept district council delegations. And in fact, I think 5 district councils have already accepted or suggested that LCC continue with that function. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Noble. I think Councillor Paul Skinner is wishing to speak as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share Councillor Woodliffe's concerns about the visually impaired. In fact, I'll be quite honest, one of the scariest things I've ever done in my role as councillor is blindfolded and walking across the square with a guide dog. Fortunately, the guide dog had the brains, so we got over it safely. What I do consider that, and obviously the cafes or whatever, when they extend their premises, it is for them to make risk assessments to make it as safe as we can for the individuals. But one thing, I would support this in lots of ways, because we really do need to be supporting our business communities at this time, and we really need to be trying to encourage people to get back in town and safely distance, because we need to make commerce work. It's been a terrible time for lots of people. It may not all be over, but anything we can do to support our local businesses safely, I'm all in favour of. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Paul Skinner. If I may add something, and I think it's a good idea. The first thing I see is it will increase the footfall of tourists in town. And to be honest with you, yesterday I went to Kings Lane, and it was fantastic to walk by the harbour, by the port, coffee shops, bars, people are eating outside, socializing, and it looks nice with the sun. And I think we have a beautiful town. Boston is a beautiful town. If we can do something like that, it's going to be great. We just have to designate probably the places where we can have these tables for the coffee shops or some other things, and we'll make the place looks more busier and nicer. Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, yes, we have Councillor Austin's and Edge. I don't know which one is wish to speak, but
it's me again. I'm sorry.
I think next time, Councillor Austin, you will have flags: a blue for you, a red for Richard, and yellow for Vivian.
Next time, if I want to speak, I will raise my own hand, so you know it's me.
Good.
Right, thank you.
Yes.
I obviously appreciate the concern of my colleague Councillor Woodliffe as regards people with visually impaired. However, we already have in the marketplace, obviously we're not onto advertising, but is it called Seventh Heaven or something? Just one cafe that does have an outdoor area. And I don't think necessarily when it talks about pavement, it necessarily will mean in the marketplace using the pavement, when there is, of course, space within the marketplace. However, obviously, everything must be set out carefully with appropriate social distancing measures. And I seem to think somewhere, I had smoking and non-smoking areas, all these sort of things which are necessary. There obviously could be concern in Straight Bargate, but I think we have to trust that highways, sorry, it won't necessarily be highways, but the county council will clearly mark off an area, and it will probably be done, as with the Seventh Heaven, I would imagine, with appropriate sort of barriers, because you can't be spilling right across the road in Straight Bargate. So I think, bearing in mind, safety in general, every thing will have to be risk assessed, and I feel confident that this is the right thing to do, and has been said by two speakers already. I think any opportunity of allowing more of our businesses to operate, then that's the better. If they're prepared to do it in midwinter, well, perhaps rather them than me, but it could be done. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alison Austin. I think we have Councillor Watson. Can we have Councillor Watson on the screen, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think this is a good idea. And in fact, I'd just like to suggest an answer to Councillor Stephen Woodcliffe's question about insurance. And what I would suggest is that the business concerned would have its own public liability insurance, and obviously a full risk assessment would have to be done. But as I say, only because of my previous dealings with insurance, I thought I'd mention that would be the way that it would be done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. I totally agree with you. As myself, I have a calf. I do have liability insurance. You have to have one in place before opening. Thank you, Councillor Watson, for the clarification. Councillor Rush.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'm getting a hang of this thing now.
Just, I cannot see you.
No, it doesn't matter about that. Don't worry. It's not a pretty sight.
Oh, here you are.
There we are. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I'm a little worried about the lack of sympathy we have for the disabled of this town, who like a lot of places in the town, well, in the territory, if you like, suffer the slings and arrows of double-sided aluminium signs. I spent my whole life in the sign industry, and I have to be honest and say that there have been some fantastic designs. However, most people look for the cheapest rate sign they can get, no disrespect to them, but they are too light, and consequently they blow all over the place and they do have a problem. But looking at it from a disablement point of view, there can't be any more debilitating, what would you call it? I hate to call it like illness or complaint or bodily function than not being able to see. To take away someone's sight it must be horrible for them, and it must be really hard work for them going uptown. I think that society today can come up with a different idea about how to advertise their wares. And I have to be honest and say, sorry to include you, Mr. Mayor, but the cafe industry are the biggest issuers of double-sided light signs. I don't think we should vote for this. I think we should demonstrate that Boston is friendly to people with disabilities. For the sake of selling 1 or 2 more cups of coffee or anything else of that ilk, I think is not justifiable. Our marketplace can advertise itself just by the placing of chairs and barriers of all sorts, and even the noise that emanates from a cafe culture does warn disabled people that they're there. I abhor double-sided aluminium signs. I cannot imagine why anyone would want them, but I do go along with the fact that if they're heavy enough, big enough, and what would you call it, obstructive enough, then maybe disabled people would accept them better. But I think we have to be seen to try. And in that case, I would be voting against this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Thank you. Councillor Dorian. Can we have Councillor Dorian, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you're welcome. Hello. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I really want to support what Councillor Woodliff and Councillor Rush said. I too am very concerned about visually impaired people and their way of life being restricted even further by these signs, not just signs on the pavement, but I'm not entirely sure if tables and chairs, I know it says adjacent to the highway, but very often they blur boundaries, don't they? I'm really concerned about that, and I'm really concerned, Mr. Mayor, that if we give over this responsibility to Lincolnshire County Council, that we can't actually rely on our county councillors to speak up for the people of Boston. Because when they discussed this motion, councillors Paula Cooper, Tom Ashton, Paul Skinner and Aaron Spencer didn't even bother attending the meeting. I'm pleased to hear that Councillor Griggs did get there. He didn't get there on time though, did he? So who is going to speak up for the people of Boston? Who's going to speak up for the visually impaired and the people who have restricted mobility? if it's not our county councillors. So if we discharge that function, what guarantees do we have from those county councillors that they're actually going to do the job? They're actually going to get out of bed, go to the meeting and do the job. That's what I'd like to know, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We have to push them then to do that.
They get paid well enough, Mr. Mayor, not to need any pushing. Let me tell you that. They earn a lot more than a lot of people in Boston at the current time. So they shouldn't need any pushing, in my view, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dorian. Thank you. Councillor Tom Ashton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It is really disappointing after the comments that we had in the extraordinary meeting a few months ago about working together, being nice to each other, that it hasn't even lasted as far as this meeting. And I very much hope that Councillor Dorian has never ever missed a single meeting in all her years as a local councillor. It'd be very disappointing, and I really dislike the accusatory manner in which she attacks this subject. And I do have considerable sympathy for the points that are raised by colleagues in respect to people who are visually impaired. I mean, we've heard an awful lot about signs. I draw attention to page 26 of our papers, item 1.3. It refers to furniture by the use of furniture by the license holder to sell or serve food or drink supplied from or in connection with the relevant use of the premises, the use of furniture by other purposes for the purpose of consuming food or drink. I think it's fairly clear that we're talking about tables and chairs. I think it's also clear from 1.2 that we're talking until the 30th of September 2021. I think it's also clear from 1.1 that this comes about from the Business and Planning Act 2020. It's an act of parliament that is designed to support business recovery, making it cheaper, easier and quicker for businesses to obtain pavement licenses for the use of outdoor space during the summer and at other times. So anyone understanding the licensing process will of course appreciate that it follows a very strict process. It isn't at all like planning, where there is often a greater degree of area for debate. And there's a very clear steer from government for this. And it's all right, we can talk until the cows come home in Boston about how we should somehow grab control of this power for ourselves and then exercise it in a way which would be in contravention of the Act of Parliament. There are simply processes that have to be followed. Putting this over to the county council will not mean that there is a single decision different to what a decision would be taken in Boston, because it is a clear set of criteria that underpins that act and underpins the decision-making process. It is effectively an administrative task, and if there is consultation required, then the county council, as a perfectly competent upper tier local authority, will consult with the people that it's required to do so. I think we are in danger of spending a great deal of time talking about something which is pretty straightforward. It's in clear ink on our papers, what it is to do, what it is about, and anyone that understands the licensing process will understand that we shouldn't be using this as a political football.
Thank you, Councillor Ashton. Can we have, I think, Councillor Griggs wishing to speak? Yes, Councillor Griggs.
Yes, first of all, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for letting me speak. I'd like
welcome.
to the sentiments of Councillor Ashton, who said most of what I was going to say. I will just address Councillor Dorian's point directly. I do like to apologise if by some way I've offended you, Councillor Dorian. I'm sure having an attendance record of just over 90%, you'll appreciate sometimes life gets in the way of meetings. Unfortunately, I had a baby, and with the midwife, as I'm sure you can appreciate with your daughter being pregnant, you can't be in the house with children while the midwife's there. So I'd just like to apologise that me having a family was an inconvenience to you, Anne. And I'd prefer it if we could put the swords down and work together as we established in the previous meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Griggs. Councillor Goodale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you're welcome.
I mean, obviously, like all members, I concur with the problems which we are trying to help our partially sighted residents with along the walking along our footpaths down through the marketplace. My understanding is that's what the whole idea of licensing is for. To make sure that any signs, or should make sure any signs displayed are displayed in a reasonable manner and present as little danger as possible. I mean, I would like to see the Borough Council be able to discharge this function, but as the papers quite clearly say, we're not in a position to do so. All I would ask, though, Mr. Mayor, is that the County Council, when dispensing the licensing function, actually do let let the borough councils know what is actually being proposed, as our own licensing department do with licenses, the alcohol licenses that are applied for now, which we are responsible for as a borough. So I would hate that we as borough councils, the first thing we knew was that something just appeared without any notification at all. I mean, I fully accept that it's that licenses and there is a regulatory framework towards it, but I would like to think that as district councils, we were to be informed. I have no problem with the county council having this function, but I would like to emphasise that I do think we should actually be informed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Goodale. I have again the trio, Austins and Edge. Which one is wishing to speak? Councillor Austins and Edge.
It's Richard Austin wants to
speak. Richard, good.
I see this as one more step to improving and increasing our visitor economy. I'd like to think that this will be a good experiment that will show us how best to do this sort of thing long term. So I'm going to be in favour of this trial. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Richard Austin. I can't, you know, we have to think, most of us have been abroad, and I bet most of us, probably 99% of us, have sat outside and had a drink in other European countries. Why we cannot have it in our town and try to work around it? Of course, we have to think about people in wheelchairs. We have to think about kids. We have to think about everything. Health and safety will be a priority for us, and it should be. And I think it will be something which will increase our tourism, and I think it will be part of it. Thank you. Councillor Dorian, is it a clarification or just a reply to any comments made before?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a point of personal clarification.
Thank you.
First of all, massive congratulations to Councillor Griggs. I had no idea you had a new baby. I had no idea you were expecting a new baby. And that's just joy personified. And I'm really highly delighted for you and your wife. I think that's wonderful. And of course, that's an absolutely acceptable reason. You don't even need to apologise, Councillor Riggs. I can't think of a better reason to miss a meeting, actually, than to welcome a new baby into the world. But please don't mistake holding people accountable for everybody getting along together, because I will always hold you accountable. And my grievance was with the fact that not one of you sent apologies, not you now, Councillor Griggs, you've said you were there and I accept that, but not one of the other councillors sent apologies. And of course, to Councillor Ashton's point, I've missed one meeting, maybe two, since I've been elected, and have always sent apologies. So in today's day and age, there's no excuse really. But congratulations again on the baby. I'm really pleased for you.
Thank you, Councillor Dorian. Thank you. Thank you. We have Councillor Judith Skinner, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst I appreciate the difficulties of the visually impaired, I'm sure that the County Council, when doing their risk assessments and granting the licence, will be taking this into to account when they're granting the licenses. And I would like to add that I think Councillor Goodale's idea of having a list of premises that are applying sent to the Borough Council, like we do with other planning and licensing, would be a splendid idea, and hopefully we can arrange that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Judith Skinner. Okay, is there any more speakers, please? If there are no more speakers, then I will ask Councillor Stevens to sum up. Councillor Stevens, would you sum up, please, for us? Thank you.
I will. Thank you. I've listened to everybody's concerns, and I must admit, even though we weren't discussing A-boards tonight, A-boards are still an issue for the visually impaired. I've also thought about the businesses that want to offer this scheme, and I'm sure when I was in business, whatever I did, I had to do risk assessments and I had to have public liability insurance, and that is something that I'm sure any business enjoying the scheme will do. But I think a list sent of businesses wanted to take part, sent to Boston Borough councillors, I think it's a very, very good idea. And I know we've got Mr. Andy Fisher here at the meeting this evening, and I'll put that over to him that perhaps this can be arranged to satisfy our councillors' requirements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Now I will move to the vote. This will be taken by roll call. Lorraine will call out your name and you should respond against or for, against or abstain. Thank you. All to you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're now voting on the recommendations as set out in the report on pavement licensing. Councillor Tracy Abbott. For. Councillor Tom Ashton.
For.
Councillor Alison Austin.
For.
Councillor Richard Austin.
For.
Councillor Peter Bedford.
For.
Councillor Alan Bell.
For.
Councillor David Brown.
For.
Councillor George Corner.
For.
Mr. Mayor.
For.
Councillor Andorian.
For.
Councillor Vivian Edge.
For.
Councillor Deborah Evans.
For.
Councillor Paul Goodale.
For.
Councillor Martin Griggs.
For.
Councillor Neil Hasty.
For.
Councillor Jonathan Noble.
For.
Councillor Frank Pickett.
For.
Councillor Brian Rush.
Against. Against.
Against, thank you. Councillor Judith Skinner.
For.
Councillor Paul Skinner.
For.
Councillor Chelsea Sharman.
For.
Aaron Spencer, Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Peter Watson.
For.
Councillor Judith Wellborn.
For.
Councillor Nigel Welton.
For.
Councillor Colin Woodcock.
For.
Councillor Stephen Woodliff.
For.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendations are clearly carried.
Thank you very much, Lorraine. Thank you. We now move to the next item, accelerated grant through the Towns Fund, which I will ask Councillor Nigel Walton to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors. It gives me great pleasure to introduce this report this evening. Boston has an opportunity under the Towns Fund to submit an application for several key projects to be completed by the 31st of March 2021 from the Accelerated Grant Fund. This being part of the process of levelling up Boston to enable us to nurture and realise our ambition through the Town Board for the greater benefit of Boston. It is worth just taking a moment to remember that Boston was top of the 101 towns for the number of town submissions. In fact, Boston Town Board received over 60 expressions of interest by mid-February this year. and this was how our partners wished to work with the town board to level up Boston. When consultation took place on the My Town suggestions, there was a significant amount of interest in 4G and 5G pitches. Our community feels shortchanged on the number of all-weather pitches we have in Boston, and that impacts on the health of not just our young people, but of all age groups. Working with our partner Haven High, we can ensure that a 4G pitch is delivered by the 31st of March 2021, creating a meaningful asset for the community. As a council, we are always immensely proud of the achievements of Boston College, a top 5 UK college. And we have seen the success of the Engineering, Manufacturing and Technology Centre, which was officially opened in March this year by the Business and Industry Minister. And now through the Accelerated Fund, we have the opportunity to support the next key education centre, the Digital Transport and Logistics Academy, by assisting with the purchase of key equipment, helping not just our young people to learn, but also providing support and training for adult learners, key in a post-COVID-19 world to support new employment. Ask the majority of people what makes Boston special, and they will say our amazing heritage. The Boston Town Heritage Project will continue on the projects such as Bridge Street and Hoppers, where the shopfront improvement improves Boston's appeal, not just to those who live and work and shop in Boston now, but also our visitor economy too. The Experience Boston project is designed to better promote our heritage and history, helping to support the high street through increasing visitors and bringing people into Boston. This builds upon a previously successful project, Boston Explore and Discover, and showed positive outcomes. PE21, we have spoken at length about the possibilities this project has in repurposing the town centre, and now more than ever in an emerging post-COVID-19 world. This is an important focus. The funding requested is to take us to the next steps of this exciting urban regeneration concept. And finally, the Sanctuary Project recognises that when we speak out economy recovery, increasing productivity and prosperity, all parts of our society should be included. This project provides for 16 self-contained flats and ensures that everyone is included in the benefits that arise from a successful town deal. Last week, I listened to BTAC's meeting with great interest and was very pleased with all the positive comments from members across all parties with the projects in this report before us. And finally, I wish to say that the team have worked extremely hard under very tight deadlines to put together a comprehensive bid to central government in order to bring in some well-needed money to Boston. And I hope that this is just the beginning of much more money coming our way. Therefore, I would like to formally move the recommendations as printed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Walton. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
You second that. Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, apologies. If I may just intervene before we move to the vote. Are any members wishing to declare an interest in this item? I'm mindful that it references the town board, and I'm mindful it references Haven High. So if anyone may wish to declare an interest, this would be the appropriate time before we move to the debate. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Michelle. Well, I have 4 speakers in front of me. I think Councillor Dorian is first. Can we have Councillor Dorian, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would like to declare an interest because I'm employed to work at Haven High Academy. So I would like to declare an interest. Before I depart, I would just like to point out to the monitoring officer and to Councillor Welton that whilst 4G and 5G pitches are in development, that actually the only pitches that are accredited by any sports governing body are 3G pitches. And it's a 3G pitch that Haven High is applying for funding to support. A 3G pitch, that's all that's accredited at this given time. So that being said, I will now leave the meeting and I'll be called back in when you move to the next item, Mr. Mayor.
No worries. Thank you very much, Councillor Dorian, for the clarification. Thank you. I have.
Before we move up, we're just going to put Councillor Dorian into the waiting room on the Zoom
Sure.
so that we can then bring her back for the final item.
Okay, that's good. Now I have Councillor Austin. Which one is wishing to speak?
Me, but I wish to speak. I haven't got an interest to declare. Do you wish me to speak now or wait until the...
I don't think so there is anybody to declare any interest. Is there anybody wishing to declare any interest in this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Skinner, Paul Skinner.
As part of duties of leader, I actually sit on the town board. Thank you.
So you're going to leave us as well? You're going to be in the waiting room?
Yeah, can do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I need to declare an interest as well as I am chairman of BTEC. I'm a member of the town board also.
Okay, Councillor Good.
I don't really see as that actually restricts me from taking part in this debate, though, as I have actually sat in the BTEC debate, and this debate is exactly the same recommendation. So I've declared an interest, making it noted, but I see no reason to leave the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Goodale. And I do. Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
Michelle. Yes.
If I may also provide some assistance there, neither
Yes.
Councillor Skinner nor Councillor Goodale need to leave the room. It's just a matter that pertains that they are town board members, but this is not a decision of the town board. This is a decision of full council, and therefore they are able to take part and actively debate and vote in this matter. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for the clarification. That's good. That helps. We have Councillor Jonathan Noble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I think we've not had very long timescale to consider these proposals. Decision has to go to Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government by the 14th of August. And I note that the key focus is supposed to be which capital projects will have the greatest immediate impact to aid economic recovery. And if we go to page 3 of the document, briefing document, it talks about those schemes which will return the maximum economic benefit cost ratio, BCR, for all our communities in the shortest amount of time. So I question whether some of these will actually do that. I mean, obviously £750,000 of central government money is most welcome. Let's take, for example, the first one, this much lauded 3G football pitch for Haven High. Now, Haven High is a very well-resourced school. They have currently on roll at 1,172 pupils, and we know that you get a certain amount of money for each pupil you have. So they're very well financed. And it's going to be a pitch which I applaud young people for taking part in sport, but it's going to be mainly, I think, for the benefit of the students rather than local community groups. That's that one. The second one, Boston College, the one about Digital Transport and Logistics Academy, I think that's to be applauded, because according to the briefing document, the logistics and transport industry provide 40,000 jobs, and it talks about equipping not only young people but adult learners with necessary skills and employment. So that's to be most welcomed, as is the Boston Town Heritage Project of £277,000, because Boston has a rich, very rich historical heritage. I mean, some of the buildings we have are absolutely wonderful. We have so many listed buildings. So I think that's to be applauded. As the fourth one, which is supposed to be better promoting our history and I suppose indirectly to promote tourism, that's most welcome. Although I have to say some of the language is rather woolly in the descriptors we have about expanding interpretive schemes and so on. But if it boosts tourism in the local economy, that's well and good. Then we have the much lauded PE21 scheme. Now, my understanding, we've already spent 30,000 on this, and now we've been told we need to spend another 50,000 on it. My personal view is we should be repurposing the marketplace and the areas immediately around it, not that particular area close to what's the old B&M store and the idea of moving the bus shelter a few hundred yards. I don't think that's such a great scheme. And I say we've spent a lot of money already. As regards the sanctuary restored church, they're supposed to be getting 200,000. Again, is this like to promote maximum economic growth? I accept the argument that homeless people need to be helped and to be given skills, but I would doubt it's one of the most likely things to promote economic growth. It's also noteworthy, I think the restored church already had some money through the Controlling Migration Fund. They moved from their premises on the corner of Church Station Road and Tower Street. They sold that for about 100,000, I think. They moved to premises on Queen Street, Final Crescent. You can see it from Queen Street for 200,000. And they've got some mystery beneficiary, a provider. It's not highlight who it is. So I'd quite like the money that's supposed to be allocated to the sanctuary and the P21 should be redirected to the more deserving projects, which are the Boston College and the Boston Town Heritage Project. But I appreciate we've got to make a decision soon, and we must put a bid in for all the money. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Noble. We have Councillor Griggs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to say I was at BTAC the other night, and it was really great to see the support across the different political persuasions for projects that are going to improve lives of the residents that we all care for, or are supposed to care for at least. In terms of Haven High, obviously I'm not employed there, but I did do my teacher training there, and I know that they were making great strides at interacting with the local community. Not just the young students. While I was there, they started a club where they go out and help people living in the bungalows nearby with jobs that they couldn't do. And so I'm sure that the 3G pitch will be used for things such as walking football for older people. And I'm sure that the headmaster there will do his utmost to ensure that all members of the local community are able to engage in the things they're putting on there. I can't knock what Councillor Noble said on the other projects. I think they're all fantastic, and I think it's great that so many projects were ready to go, because as we all know, it was an extremely short turnaround time, and it was essentially, if you're ready to go, you can put a bid in. If you're not tough, you lose out. And it's great that we're in a position where we're not going to lose out. Just in terms of the sanctuary that he said, we all know that generally speaking, the homeless population of Boston have many issues that normally there isn't the ability to provide the support and care needed to them. It's not just as simple as give them a roof over their head. Many of these people have had a testing time and have troubles with addiction or mental health issues that normally can't be addressed, and that isn't helped by the fact that there is nowhere for them to stay. That if they've got a house, you can send letters to the house and whatnot in terms of appointments. So I think the sanctuary project's an absolutely fantastic one, and if it gives people who, let's face it, are having a bit of a crummy time of it, a chance to be able to join back into society and give them a leg up in life, I'm definitely in favour of supporting that. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Griggs. We have Councillor Woodcock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
In support of what Councillor Griggs has just said, I mean, formerly I worked at Haven High many years ago, and even today, the facilities they have are, the sporting ones, are fully used by members of the public every day, Monday to Friday, with football at the weekends. And they're one of the very few areas that we don't have 3G pitches here. And I think you can almost guarantee unreservedly that a 3G pitch would be used for the public from literally 5 o'clock onwards until close of night. It would be a massive improvement for them and for the public, because it's something that we don't have on this side of town either. And I would recommend that we supported that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Woodcock. Thank you, Councillor Woodcock. We have Councillor Paul Skinner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just like Councillor Woodcock, I really support anything that enhances the facilities for our people of our town. We are lacking quite a few bits, and the reason I believe 910,000 has been sort of allocated amongst the figures is we've put in for more than we were allocated in the 750,000, because we might have projects that are actually rejected, and our officers have really worked hard on this. They've been working with lots of people from commercial interests in the town. And this is a real big opportunity for the people of Boston to come together to work hard for the town. And I actually applaud the work of the officers. It is a moving feast as well, because the criteria for some of these grants has been moving as they've been applying for them. So I think they've done a real good job, and they've applied for more than we probably will get, but who knows? Let's just hope we're pleasantly surprised and our town does really well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Skinner, Paul Skinner. We have one of the Austins and Edge. Who is wishing to speak, please?
Right.
I can't hear you, Councillor Austin.
Right, that's it.
Right, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Richard has sorted it out.
We both wish to speak. I think mine's probably going to be shorter, so if I may go first, and
Sure.
then whilst we leave the microphone unmuted, then perhaps my husband could follow straight away.
Sure.
I was, after the really positive reaction we had at BTAC, I really was disappointed by Councillor Noble's reaction. It's unfortunate, perhaps he doesn't live in the borough, but maybe he's not the only one. But that was very disappointing. I felt that Councillor Noble really missed the whole point. These are part of bigger projects, and there's been some fantastic projects put forward. Perhaps he could have listened in to BTAC, because Michelle Sachs presented that report then and was very, well, I think was quite expansive on them all. But with the 3G pitch, you know, that is stated as being available for the public. Let's make the most of it, please. We need our public to be active. The digital, the Boston College one, again, such an important project. Boston College has got so much to offer and help with skills. You see, I don't know really how much, I'm sorry to criticize another councillor, but maybe Councillor Noble just hasn't perhaps fully immersed himself, like some of us have, in the whole project, the whole town deal. But skills, you see, health is another one, all these things that come together, and skills, you see, is there in number 2. Number 3 is about enhancing tourism, enhancing our environment, empty properties and all the rest. That's another brilliant one. Number 4, again, that Experience Boston, that is about a cultural visitor destination. All right, maybe some sort of specialist type, or shall I say, wording about, but quite understandable, I think. Place branding is something that's been going on now for several years within this borough. So again, important, because it's all part of 2 things. First of all, teaching our own residents what there is within Boston, because so many of them don't really know, so it gives them a chance to understand for themselves. But more importantly, it is something that gives visitors something to make them get more out of the experience of visiting Boston. PE21, well, we've talked about that before in this council. And yes, a feasibility study is always the next phase in these projects. And of course, this is just one phase, as some of the other projects are, in then going on and getting more funding, attracting funding, getting match funding, grant funding, and that's what PE21 is probably also doing. And then again, Restore Church is it's trying to help people gain skills, get them back into employment, get them so that they are not a drain on society. All the things that all these projects tick all the boxes, and I'm very happy to be supporting them. Thank you.
Councillor Richard Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome these project interventions being submitted by the Towns Board, but there are two particular points I'd like to highlight. We realise that it is most important for Boston to become a hub for the visitor economy and tourism in Lincolnshire. The private sector is doing a great job attracting visitors to the area, particularly in Boston Borough and East Lindsey. Now Boston needs to greatly expand its visitor offer to further promote it as a prime visitor destination. 3 of the projects selected by the Towns Fund Board can all help. So please let us all welcome with enthusiasm the Town Heritage Project, the Experience Boston Project, and the PE21 Feasibility Project. Mr. Mayor, I would like to add a footnote to this. We do need to enhance our visitor website, and I hope East Lindsey can help us to do this to our mutual advantage. And I hope this will be one spin-off from this project. The second point I'd like to just highlight is about the Sanctuary Project. This is one more initiative to help the most needy and vulnerable of our population and should be welcomed. My one reservation is that the proposed building to be used is unfortunately on a prominent corner of Emery Lane. This may not enhance the other businesses of this area, and I would have much preferred to see a building used like the old job centre away from the tourist area at the far end of West Street. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Richard Austin. I will come back to you, Councillor Noble. I see your hand. Councillor Goodale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, well, just really supporting what other members have said. I mean, I'd support what Councillor Paul Skinner said with regard to, obviously, we've applied for far more funding than is available, and we may well get far more funding than we've been promised, fingers crossed, or asked for. But obviously, each one is a bidding process, and we need to bid for the funds for all of these. So, I mean, it's a shame that most members didn't actually have the share the enthusiasm of Michelle at our BTAC meeting, because she really has put a lot of work into this, and she really is enthusiastic and really enthused about it. I think the thing is, although I can accept what Councillor Nable's point is about economic development, but at the end of the day, all of these, in the end, actually do help the town with its economic development bids, because they all contribute to it. They're either putting people back into employment or looking for feasibility for employment. And at the end of the day, well-being and physical well-being also aid people back into employment. So really, this is a totally balanced bid, if you like, and it goes across all sectors of the town. And I really think it's worth supporting. I wholeheartedly support it. BTAC wholeheartedly supported it, and I hope the council will wholeheartedly support it as well, and show the enthusiasm that the town board and our officers have shown in actually putting these bids together. Because let's not forget, this is only a small part of the money that is available. So, you know, I would like the council to really get behind this and really push it forward as enthusiastically as we can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Goodale. Now we're coming back to Councillor Noble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, a point of personal explanation. It's just really sad that Councillor Alison Austin didn't listen carefully enough to what I said, because if she had, she would have noticed that I praised projects 2, 3 and 4 very highly. I'm simply judging it by the criterion which we were given, which is those projects which have the greatest cost benefit analysis have the greatest impact on economic recovery. That is all. Obviously, I'm going to support it. And as regards the cheap political comment from Councillor Austin, well, it's not worth replying. It's really
That's fine.
pathetic, I'm afraid, but where we are.
Thank you, Councillor Noble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
As long as we work together, that's the main thing. We have Councillor Judith Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I really welcome these proposals, and I'd like to reiterate what Councillor Alison Austin's sentiments regarding it, and she more or less summed up what I was going to say. The only things I would like to add is regarding Haven High. In my time as mayor, I was delighted to see how they open their facilities up to the community. They do a wonderful job. And also, Councillor Goodale, I did see Michelle's enthusiasm for the project. I was watching your BTAC meeting on YouTube. Unfortunately, that was the way I was told I had to watch it. Unlike GoToMeetings, you can't see the time I'm there.
Oh.
So I don't know how to get around that at all, whether the officers could help me with that one. And it was really nice to see. And I also reiterate about helping the homeless. At the moment, it's something we struggle to do through lack of resources at the borough, and it would be wonderful to be able to help people back into the community that have had a tough deal in life and often don't deserve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Judith Skinner. We have Councillor Tom Ashton.
Thank you. I will join in very briefly in the general and unalloyed enthusiasm for the paper that we've got in front of us. For me, I just draw attention to Project 3, which is the Town Heritage Project. I know I was fairly roundly monstered when I replied to an email a little while ago suggesting number 5 and number 7 Bargate as perhaps requiring attention. That's not to say that I don't fully support 16, 17 Marketplace and 8 Dolphin Lane. I think the vista that both tourists and also our local people get when they stand in the marketplace and look up and around them is so important. There's a lot of really good work already happened in this area, and to take this to the next level and to develop this on, I think would be marvelous. And if we can extend that down to Dolphin Lane, then Mr. Mayor, you may one day get your fountain at in Pump Square. I would also say very briefly, in defence of Councillor Noble, obviously on a different authority, Councillor Noble is one of my constituents, along with several thousand other people. They also look to Boston as their local town, and it's and clearly I'm sure Councillor Noble cares very deeply, as he has reassured us in his other comments. And I'm glad that he's able to support. I'm glad that all members are able to support incredibly broadly the many tremendously good schemes that we've got. I won't simply repeat comments that other colleagues have made. However, I would add my thanks and tribute to Mrs. Sachs for the efforts and work that she has very demonstrably put into this project over the months, and to Councillor Welton and the other councillors that represent this council on the Townfield board. These are incredibly important organisations that are doing a huge amount of work. The competition across the country is great, because as we know, the pot of money doesn't on the bigger Townfield fund doesn't actually equate to 25 million for each town. So there is competition, and it is delightful to see Boston punching above its weight, bringing cracking good projects forward, and I shall support them wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Councillor Tom, and thank you for supporting me on my fountain. If that goes, that will be perfect. Some basking and some tables. I mean, all is coming together now, and we can add on that warm gate, use some bollard and close it because there is nowhere to go. And I think will be perfect for dining a la fresco. I would love that. I would love that. Thank you, Councillor Ashton. We have Councillor Rush.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're more than welcome.
I'm enthused by the amount of enthusiasm that has been shown here. And in fact, any of these projects that will embellish the experience of coming to Boston, I would support wholeheartedly. However, I do worry that we do select, I'm not quite sure who made the selection of the different projects, but this town deserves better than this, really. So I'm actually enthused by all the enthusiasm being expressed, but I'm really concerned about the timescales of this project, and I wonder if someone could inform me about is the I suppose the timer turned upside down, and how far are we into completion time? I watched as well the transmission by our monitoring officer a few weeks back as well. However, and I think that her enthusiasm was greatly accepted and welcomed. But I think we need to be a bit more councillor-led, really, with having those sort of opinions that the monitoring officer expressed. I think that members as well need to put more into the idea. And maybe the new regime that we've invented tonight, well, I hope we've invented tonight, will start to embrace all councillors and seek all types of ideas, even though this one may well be too late for us to start creating. We do deserve better, but all our councillors deserve better as well. We need to be involved in every step of the way to embellish this town and make it better for the people that we support and represent. I'm really enthused by what has happened. I listened to what has been said, and there are a lot of people who are equally excited as I am. However, I don't seem to have had much input into this, and I would like to think that that would change in the future. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. If there are no more speakers, there is a Paul Skinner, Councillor Paul Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a point of clarification. It's on the papers. These monies have to be spent before the 31st of March. And as a lot of them are actually capital projects, I believe it's what we've got to go now and to be ready. There's also a lot of more interesting projects as well. But that is in a sense why these ones have been selected. We are ahead of the game with the work the officers put in, and I'm sure Councillor Goodale knows how the town board works, like myself. We are just there, and it's the town that's doing it. We've had the opportunity to add to the projects list. In fact, I put 2 or 3 on there as well. None of the ones I put down were selected, but that's part of the process. So just thought I'd inform you of that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope my fountain will go in the process. Anyway, if there are no more speakers, thank you, Councillor Paul Skinner. If there are no more speakers, then I will move, ask Councillor Walton to sum up, please. Councillor Walton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I need to make 2 apologies. The first one being I can't read my own notes, and it's actually a 3G football pitch, and that is in the conclusion on page 9. Delivery of a 3G pitch to improve the quality of health in the borough, as opposed to when I delivered the beginning, I mentioned 4G. And the second apology I need to give is that having listened to Mrs. Sachs at BTAC the other day, that I feel that I've gone very, very short in my enthusiasm in comparison to her. But I think when you look at what her department has managed to turn around, we had notification to the chief executive on the 1st of July, and this submission needs to be submitted by the 14th of August. So that's 33 working days for her team. Now, if you take off the time for the last 7 days, 5 days when the papers have to be published, and the time from now to then, we're probably looking at something in 20 weeks, 20 days. So for the team to pull together 6 projects that are ready to go, can be delivered by the 31st of March. The summary of them projects we've got now is probably nothing compared to the details in the submission that will go to central government. And the way that this has come has been absolutely amazing in the timeframes that we've got. And Councillor Rush is right, you know, that in this new world, as he said, we've invented tonight, that all of these things as individual projects we need to be involved in, and as a project as generally we should be involved in. But we still have to bear in mind that this is the town board that are dealing with the bigger projects. One or two other comments I've made some notes on. That this is actually new money. It's not part of the 25 million. It's not going to be knocked off at the other end. Projects have to be done to the 31st of March. Sorry. The Haven High one is, they have a shortfall, and by this being bid for to fill that gap means that that pitch gets built, and it's as clear as that. If we can do what we're doing with this and we can put money into these projects, what this means is these projects that are sitting there that can be delivered will be delivered. And there was many more projects that were suggested, but these were picked out as the ones that would fill the criteria the best, but also that can be delivered by the 31st of March. And if we think about timescales properly, we've got submission on the 14th of August. Government then need to look at each of these individual projects on their own merits, and then they'll make a decision. And it's only when they've then made that decision that that money can be released to these projects. So it's not about can they be delivered by the 31st of March. It's more about can they be delivered pretty damn immediately once they get the money. So, you know, the work behind the scenes to make this happen has just been immense. And I just thank the officers for their enthusiasm, but also the fact that many councillors tuned into BTAC to see something that was being publicly debated. And that was the committee where it went to. Every one of us, if we'd have looked at the agendas, and I'm sure most of us did, would have dialed into that meeting, sat at home and watched it with a cup of tea like I did, and got all the information. Because the information that Mrs. Sachs put together at BTAC puts my report tonight at shame, but that is because I haven't been spending every waking moment dealing with these projects, whereas she has. And that's the reality of what we do. But you know, we can go to other meetings, we can find out things in other ways, and I think maybe we should be a little bit more proactive. Me in particular, I can't remember the last time I went to a scrutiny committee that I wasn't invited to. But maybe going forward, we should get involved in other people's bits and pieces and have a bigger understanding of what's going on. And we might see other people that we don't normally see in the committees we do sit on, because we don't see everybody. We sit in different committees, so we get to know different people in different ways. And maybe if we start sharing our time with other committees, maybe we will start to learn and get on with other people a lot better. So the way this has been put on tonight and the positivity has really brought
Councillor Welton, your time has finished.
Thank you, Councillor Walton. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Walton just has summed up his project. So now I will move to the vote. This will be taken by roll call. Lauren will call out your name and you should respond for, against, or for, against, or abstain. Thank you, Lauren. It's all to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Ashton.
For.
Councillor Alison Austin.
For.
Councillor Richard Austin.
For.
Councillor Bedford.
For.
Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Corner.
For.
Mr. Mayor.
For.
Councillor Dorian's not here. Councillor Edge.
For.
Councillor Evans,
For.
Councillor Goodale,
For.
Councillor Griggs,
For.
Councillor Hasty,
For.
Councillor Noble,
For.
Councillor Pickett,
For.
Councillor Rush,
For.
Councillor Judith Skinner,
For.
Councillor Paul Skinner,
For.
Councillor Sharman,
For.
Councillor Spencer's not here, Councillor Stevens,
For.
Councillor Watson,
For.
Councillor Wellborn,
For.
Councillor Welton,
For.
Councillor Woodcock,
For.
Councillor Woodliff.
For.
That's unanimously carried, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Thank you. Okay. Before we move to the final agenda item for this evening is a meeting, Council is asked to consider moving into private session due to the exempt nature of the information contained within the report. Do I have a proposal?
You do, Mr. Mayor.
Is it Councillor Paul Skinner? Yeah?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Councillor Andorian has resumed the meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jamie.
Don't bring a drink into me, would you do?
Please, councillors, would you switch off your phones or your microphones? Sorry. I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Then I will.
I have Councillor Rush. Councillor Rush, yes, you're still on. Councillor Pickett, Austins, Hasty, Councillor Hasty. Thank you. Thank you. And Councillor Austins. That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support and your cooperation. Yes, Councillor Paul Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move under the section 100A(6) of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and the press be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1, 3 and 4 of Part 1 of the Schedule 12A of the Act. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Paul Skinner. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Griggs. Now, does anybody wish to speak? I have Councillor Griggs and Councillor Ashton. Oh, Councillor Griggs, yes.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I reserve my right to speak later.
All right then. Thank you very much. We'll come back later to you. Councillor Ashton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would just use this opportunity before we do perhaps go into private session to record what is my standing declaration, which I should have done at the commencement of the second part of this evening's meeting. And that is just to note that the item due to be under discussion references Lindsay District Council, of which I'm an elected member, but in line with my comment previously, I approached the matter entirely as a member of Boston Borough Council, and it is with that view that I take part in the debate and contribute to any decision that might be made. But I think it's very important that this declaration is done in the public part of the meeting rather than the private. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ashton. You can take your hand off now. It's already raised. Put it down. We have Councillor Dorian wishing to speak. Yes, Councillor Dorian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to suggest that as soon as we take the vote on this, I'm happy to move a motion that we extend the meeting beyond 3 hours so that we keep ourselves constitutionally correct, and hopefully we can have a comfort break if this vote goes through. And then I suggest we take 2 votes and then have a comfort break.
All right, totally agree. Thank you, Councillor Dorian. Thank you. Thank you. Any more speakers? If there are no more speakers, then we're gonna move to the vote. Councillor Griggs, you wish to speak? There is no more speakers.
No, it's okay, Mr. Mayor. There isn't anything else I feel I can add to the
Okay, thank you very much. Then we're gonna move to the vote. Please, Lorraine, can we take the vote?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is the vote on excluding the public and press from the meeting for the discussion of exempt information.
Yes.
Councillor Abbott.
Reluctantly agree.
Councillor Ashton.
For.
Councillor Alison Austin.
Against. I don't want to go on.
Councillor Richard Austin.
For.
Councillor Bedford.
For.
Councillor Bell.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Corner.
For.
Councillor Mr. Mayor.
For.
Councillor Dorian.
For.
Councillor Edge.
For.
Councillor Evans.
For.
Councillor Goodale.
For.
Councillor Griggs.
For.
Councillor Hasty.
Against.
Councillor Noble.
For.
Councillor Pickett.
For.
Councillor Rush.
For.
Councillor Judith Skinner.
For.
Councillor Paul Skinner.
For.
Councillor Sharman.
For.
Councillor Spencer's not here. Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Watson.
For.
Councillor Wellborn.
For.
Councillor Welton.
For.
Councillor Woodcock.
For.
Councillor Woodliff.
For.
That's clearly carried, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
If I could just point out, this meeting started at 7:20, so the 3-hour rule will come into play at 10:20.
I totally agree with you. That's what I was going to clarify. So it's just to be sure, we still have some time. So now we move to the final report of this meeting, which is I will ask the monitoring officer to introduce, please.
Mayor,
Yes, Jason.
are you ready for me to take this from public viewing?
Please, yes. Thank you.
Okay, can you bear with me a second while I do that?
Certainly,